Well, speaking of former Prime Ministers, the former UK PM David Cameron will be in Australia this week. He's in Adelaide for his new role of the so-called AUKUS talks. Of course, in Adelaide, it's going to be all about AUKUS submarines. You wrote in The Australian today that the AUKUS partners, and I'll quote here, are themselves by their own actions reducing AUKUS to fantasy and symbolism. How so?
Well, if Britain's going to move to its next generation of nuclear subs and Australia is going to acquire nuclear subs for the first time ever, then both nations need to increase defence spending. Both nations have in fact been decreasing defence spending. They increase it by a tiny nominal amount, but not enough to keep up with inflation. Australia has already retired one of our Anzac frigates, and we're about to retire a second. And we're not going to replace them. We don't get the first light frigate replacement until 2030. We don't even move back to where we are in the current number of frigates until 2032. In Britain, when the Conservatives came into office, the British Army was 102,000. It's now aiming to be 72,000. In the United States, Joe Biden's increasing the defence budget by a nominal 1%, which is a massive decrease after inflation, and also with a pay rise for all uniformed officers. And also he's cut the nuclear submarine orders from 2 per year to 1 per year. Now, what that all adds up to, sorry to give you that recital, but it's important to anchor this in facts. What that adds up to is the three AUKUS partners all being, at a governmental level, unwilling to increase their defence capabilities. While they talk about AUKUS, in theory, it's been going for a few years now. It hasn't delivered a single weapons system, and it won't deliver all these nuclear subs unless the industrial capacity of all three countries rises massively. And all three countries are promising to do that over the horizon, beyond the next few years of expenditure. But the only thing they control is the next few years of expenditure. So what they do is much more important than what they say.
Yeah, plenty in the diplomatic sphere here in Australia to be watching this week on those few fronts. I did want to ask you also, Greg, further afield, I was interested to read your piece over the weekend about, well, really the degradation of the relationship between Joe Biden and Benjamin Netanyahu. It is looking increasingly unhealthy.
It is. I think Biden has been under a lot of pressure from the left wing of his party for his support of Israel. And Netanyahu is an unpopular prime minister within Israel and doesn't seem to have a clear plan for what happens in Gaza after the military operation is over. The Israelis feel they will need to conduct an operation at some point in the southern Gaza city of Rafah because there are maybe 6,000 or more Hamas fighters there, probably more than that, and still a huge network of tunnels. At the same time, there's a very intense negotiation for a ceasefire. Now, Netanyahu may be threatening an imminent Rafah operation in order to pressure Hamas into a ceasefire, but Biden has made clear he doesn't want Israel to do a Rafah operation unless it can have a very big humanitarian operation, and the humanitarian situation in Gaza is unacceptable. So, but mind you, Biden is 81, Netanyahu is 74. They've each been in professional politics for the whole of my professional life in journalism, and they're very pragmatic. And if they can get a ceasefire, I think they'll they'll go back to being on okay terms, but they don't like each other very much, and they've got big differences of policy to negotiate right now.
Greg Sheridan, always appreciate your analysis. Thanks for joining us.